Germany built a 188-ton tank that was too heavy to fight, a car that swam across rivers, and remote-controlled bombs that didn't work. This is every insane vehicle Germany used in World War II. Let's start with tanks.
Panzer I. 2 machine guns, no armor. This wasn't even supposed to fight, it was a training tank. But Germany invaded Poland with thousands of them anyway. Crews quickly learned that machine guns don't stop bullets. It was basically a coffin with tracks. Panzer II. Slightly better, a 20mm cannon and thicker armor, over 1,800 built. By the time Germany invaded Russia, it was already useless, but they kept using it because they had nothing else. Panzer 38T. This one's interesting. Germany captured Czechoslovakia and took their tanks. The Czech tanks were actually better than German ones, more reliable, better built. Germany used them throughout the entire war. Main battle tanks. Panzer III. This was supposed to be Germany's main tank, armed with a 50mm gun designed to fight other tanks. Problem? The Russian T-34 showed up and made it look like a toy. Over 5,700 were built, and they were decent, just not good enough. Panzer IV, the workhorse. Germany built over 8,800 of these from 1937 to 1945. It started as an infantry support tank, but got upgraded with a long 75mm gun that could finally fight T-34s. This was Germany's most reliable tank. If they'd just built more of these instead of fancy stuff, they might have done better. Panther, Germany's answer to the T-34. Sloped armor, powerful gun, fast. Veterans called it the best tank of the war. The catch? It broke down constantly. The engine needed replacing every 1,000 kilometers. Nearly 6,000 were built, and mechanics hated every single one. Heavy tanks. Tiger I, the legend. That 88mm gun could destroy anything from ridiculous distances. When Allied tank crews saw one, they panicked. Only 1,347 were built because each one cost as much as 4 Sherman tanks. It was a masterpiece Germany couldn't afford. Tiger II, King Tiger, the heaviest tank to see combat, 68 tons. Armor so thick nothing could penetrate the front. That 88mm gun could kill enemy tanks from 2 kilometers away. Only 489 were built. Why so few? Because it was so heavy it broke bridges, drank fuel like crazy, and broke down every 50 kilometers. Maus, the Maus. Germany built a 188-ton tank, the heaviest tank ever made. It was so heavy it couldn't cross any bridge in Europe. The solution? Make it drive underwater with a snorkel. I'm not joking. 2 were built. Neither ever fought. One sits in a Russian museum where people laugh at it. Tank destroyers. Marder. Germany realized something smart. You don't need a full tank to kill tanks. Just put a big gun on a cheap chassis. The Marder series did exactly that. Over 1,400 were built. The crew was completely exposed to enemy fire, but it was cheap and it worked. Hetzer. Small, low, deadly. Based on that Czech tank chassis with a 75mm gun, it was cheap to produce and actually effective. Over 2,800 were built. Czechoslovakia kept using them until the 1950s because they were that good. Jagdpanther. Take a Panther tank, remove the turret, mount an 88mm gun in a fixed superstructure. Fast, well-armored, lethal. This was Germany's best tank destroyer. Only 415 were built because by 1944, Germany was running out of everything. Ferdinand. Remember Porsche? Yeah, the car company. They designed a Tiger tank with electric motors. It didn't win the contract, so they turned 91 hulls into tank destroyers. These things had an 88mm gun and could destroy anything. There was just one problem. Someone forgot to add a machine gun. Soviet infantry walked up and dropped grenades inside. Later versions added a machine gun. Oops. Jagdtiger. The the heaviest tank destroyer ever built, 70 tons, with a 128mm gun that could kill anything on Earth. It was also slower than walking speed when it actually worked, which wasn't often. Only 88 completed. Assault guns. StuG 3, the Sturmschütze 3. Over 10,500 were built, more than almost any other German armored vehicle. It started as infantry support, but became a tank killer. Low profile, reliable, cheap to build. This thing destroyed Allied tanks more than any other German vehicle. It was boring, practical, and it actually worked. Brummbär, the grizzly bear. A Panzer IV with a 150mm howitzer in a heavily armored box. It demolished buildings in city fighting. 306 were built for one purpose, turning buildings into rubble. Sturmtiger. Okay, this is insane. Take a Tiger tank, mount a 380mm rocket launcher that fires naval depth charges. Yes, naval depth charges. It could demolish an entire building with one shot. Only 18 were built. It took 10 minutes to reload, and you could only carry 14 rockets. Absolutely ridiculous. Self-Propelled Artillery. Wespe and Hummel, the Wasp and the Bumblebee. These were mobile howitzers. They'd drive up, fire a bunch of shells, then drive away before enemy artillery could shoot back. Smart, effective, and Germany built hundreds of them. Karl-Gerät. This deserves its own paragraph. 6 self-propelled siege mortars, each 124 tons, each with its own name: Adam, Eve, Thor, Odin, Loki, and Zeus. They fired 2-ton shells from a 600mm mortar. These things leveled Warsaw and Sevastopol. They needed a separate vehicle just to carry the ammunition. Completely insane, and somehow it worked. Half-tracks. SdKfz 251, the iconic German half-track. Over 15,000 built in dozens of different versions. It carried troops, mounted flamethrowers, launched rockets, hauled wounded, carried radios. It did everything. If you picture German half-track, this is the one. SdKfz 7, 8-ton half-track. This is what towed the famous 88 flak gun. Over 12,000 were built, reliable and essential. SdKfz 9 FAMO, the monster, 18 tons. This thing could tow a Tiger tank through Russian mud. When anything got stuck, the FAMO pulled it out. Over 2,500 were built, and they were absolute beasts. Armored cars. SdKfz 234 Puma, 8 wheels, 50mm gun, 90 km/h top speed. It could fight light tanks and outrun anything heavier. This was peak German armored car design. Only 100 were built. SdKfz 222, light 4-wheeled scout car with a 20mm cannon. Over 2,000 were produced. Fast on roads, they scouted ahead and reported enemy positions. Simple and effective. Motorcycles. BMW R75, the iconic German motorcycle with sidecar. It mounted an MG-34 machine gun, had a reverse gear, and could go anywhere. Over 18,000 were built. Now imagine being the guy in the sidecar. You're exposed to everything while operating a machine gun at 60 miles per hour. Terrifying. Zündapp KS750, Germany's other military motorcycle. Almost identical to the BMW, about 18,000 produced. These things served everywhere from Africa to Russia. Cars and Jeeps. Kübelwagen, Germany's Jeep, over 50,000 built, simple, reliable, air-cooled. It went everywhere and actually didn't break down much. Designed by Porsche, and it's proof that German engineering could be practical when they tried. Schwimmwagen, the Kübelwagen's amphibious brother. It could swim across rivers. Actually swim. Over 14,000 were built. German troops routinely drove their cars across rivers like it was normal. Peak German engineering. Overbuilt, unnecessary, and somehow it worked. Trucks. Opel Blitz, Germany's standard truck. Over 130,000 built. Boring, reliable, essential. It carried food, bullets, and everything else armies need. Not exciting, but wars are won by logistics. Mercedes-Benz L3000, Another workhorse truck, about 27,000 produced. It hauled cargo and kept armies supplied. Here's the thing about German trucks. They had hundreds of different models. America used a few standardized designs. Germany used everything, which made logistics a nightmare. Recovery vehicles. Bergepanther, a Panther tank converted into a recovery vehicle. Why? Because Panthers broke down so often they needed other Panthers to tow them. About 300 were built. The irony is beautiful. Bergetiger. Same concept, but for tigers. 3 were converted because tigers also broke down constantly and nothing else could move 56 tons of broken metal.
Anti-aircraft vehicles. Wirbelwind, the Whirlwind. 4 20mm guns in a turret on a Panzer IV. It shredded aircraft and turned out to be devastating against ground targets too. About 100 were built. Ostlind. Single 37mm gun instead of 4 20mm. More powerful but slower rate of fire. About 45 were built. Special weapons. Goliath, a remote-controlled bomb on tracks. Germany built 7,500 of these little robots carrying 60 kilograms of explosives. An operator guided it toward enemy tanks with a wire. The problem? Defenders could see it coming and just shot the wire. Expensive fireworks that barely worked. WWII IV, bigger remote-controlled bomb, 500 kilograms of explosives. Same problem. Slow, visible, and the control wire was easily cut. About 1,200 were built before someone realized this was stupid. What surprised you most? The swimming Volkswagen? The tank that needed another tank to tow it? The 188-ton monster that couldn't fight? Drop it in the comments.